Top Star bowling time here at the Marlboro Lanes. We're right outside the city of St. Louis on Route 66. Some great bowling action inside. I'm Jack Buck, and this is an invitation to you to join us. Come on, you're going to have fun. Yes, it's another week on Top Star Bowling, and welcome to the Marlboro Lanes in the village of Marlboro, just southwest of the city of St. Louis, the gateway to the west, for another outstanding match. And before introducing the participants, and we have a fellow back for the second week after knocking off Ray Bluth last week. Ray had won for 4 consecutive weeks. Before introducing him and the challenger on this session, let me tell you a bit about the match. It's a 3-game match, total pins count, $1,000 to the winner, $500 to the loser. The winner also stays around to take on a future opponent the following week on Top Star Bowling. In addition, they're shooting for $2,500 more in prize money awarded by the King Louis shirt people, $1,500 for the high series, and $1,000 for the high game in a 13-week period. Ray Bluth still is on top in both of those categories. On to the match. Let's introduce, first of all, our defending champion in our King of the Hill format. He's from St. Louis, formerly from Whittier, California. He bowled a .692 last week to be a winner. Back for the second week is Glen Allison. Glenn, good to see you once again.
Thanks, Jack. It's a pleasure being back again.
In addition to winning, you came close to the high single and the high series, maybe today, huh?
Well, I hope so.
We shall see. His opponent is from Detroit, one of the best-known bowlers of all time in this country. A very formidable opponent for Glenn. How shall I introduce him? Only by saying a member of bowling's Hall of Fame, Buzz Fazio. Buzz, good to see you.
Thank you, Jack. It's nice to see you.
And I see that Mrs. Fazio is in the audience rooting for you.
That's my pride and joy.
And your numerous grandchildren are undoubtedly viewing the show. How many grandchildren?
7.
7. No more chatter. Let's go to work. Handshake. A welcome from the fans here at Marlboro. And away we go. Buzz and Glenn, Mr. Fazio. Buzz Fazio won the toss, and Glen Allison will be starting on lane 21. This is not a practice roll. This goes into the book. And Allison starts by leaving a 5-pin, which is rather unusual. And as he shoots for the spare, allow me to introduce Jerome Whitey Harris, a member of the Brunswick Advisory Staff of Champions. He locates in St. Louis, but travels all around this country and to foreign countries as well on behalf of bowling for Brunswick. We'll be hearing from Whitey in just a moment. Now it's Glen Allison shooting for the 5-pin and the spare, and he gets it. Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress. The lanes here at Marlboro are certified by ABC. Buzz Fazio, this is his first week on Top Star Bowling in this particular series. Put that ball down very nicely. It's been a while since I've seen Buzz bowl, Whitey, and I didn't watch him in practice. Anything unique or unusual about that delivery?
I don't think so, Jack. He probably has figured that's the way he must roll this ball here. And as we've been constantly analyzing the game, where he's on now, that lane, it's an inside alley, and he's on the center dot, which for Buzz is unusual.
He got the 5-pin out of there, left the 7-pin. And he acts as if he had dropped the ball or it got away from him as he walked back to the ball return. And notice how quickly the ball gets back. During the weeks, we've been talking about the Brunswick A2 automatic pin setters and the improved ball return. There's the spare for Buzz. Glen Allison goes to work again. Glen is from St. Louis. As I mentioned at the outset, formerly from California. Little fella, 5'7", 150 pounds. He's won a lot of doubles titles with Dick Hoover. He's a great team bowler. And a fine individual performer. It's the second time that he failed to get in there to take that 5-pin out, so he'll probably learn something from that.
Jack, this is going to be quite a spare to shoot at because actually the 2-pin is over a little bit. This almost looks like a split.
He covers them both, and he has his spares. So 2 spares for Glen Allison here at the outset, and we go into the 3rd frame. We've had some great competition during the past weeks here in Top Star Bowling. Bob Chase was around for 3 weeks, appearing where Joe Joseph, Don Ellis, Steve Nagy. Steve won a couple. Ray Orff, Ray Bluth, he won 4 times, and then Glen Allison defeated him last week. And that's the way he did it. That's the way he did it with a 692 series. High series so far in this 13-week cycle is 705.
Jack, Buzz takes 5 steps, and it's he has wonderful coordination, moving up slowly to the foul line.
No 10-pin. Buzz is about 55 years old, and he, like many of the other bowlers, has chosen golf as a hobby.
Talking about golf, it looked like he had sprayed that one, and he had that big hook out there that was headed for the rough.
No opens so far. Each has gone through the 3rd frame. Each has a strike and 2 spares.
I don't think you can say anything that this fella hasn't been involved in or that hasn't won.
I was just looking here, Whitey, and he's been in every category.
And, of course, right behind him is Bobby, his wife, who is constantly with Buzz. And I know sometimes we point out some of the little characteristics or something nice. She actually is always back there praying. Now, this isn't anything, she'll admit it herself, just to help him along.
Buzz Fazio going for the 1-2. Notice how after he delivered the ball, he checked to see where he was at the foul line. Previously, he thought he had stuck a bit as he went up there. Now Glen Allison. The footwork on Allison is rather unique. Takes very short, choppy steps.
Jackie starts with his left foot with a little slide and then goes into 4 steps.
Beautiful strike. That's his 2nd strike, and he puts them together. Started with 2 spares, and now Glen Allison doubles. These winners can stay around as long as they keep on winning. There is no limit. It's conceivable that the fellow could be here for 26 weeks. But none very probable, because there are good days and bad days in bowling. This looks like a good day for Allison. It's 3 in a row for Glenn. So the buzzer's going to have to get on one. Fazio in the 5th frame. He has a spare up. Had the 5-pin standing again for a while.
I think because his position, Jack, and we keep saying we're right in line, and we are with this 22 lane, but Buzz is about 3 or 4 boards to the left on the foul line, and so that keeps his ball a little off the head pin, and don't kick that 5-pin out of there.
Spare. So Glen Allison has 38 through the 2nd with a 3-bagger working, and Buzz Fazio has a total of 76 through the 4th with a spare up. Buzz Fazio has been captain of national team champions. There, he's on one. Won a lot of individual honors. And the tournaments that he has been in, and notably around the Midwest, well, I can't say that either, because he's performed well out on the West Coast and in the East, too. Tony Lindeman was his favorite doubles partner for a long time. Allison's not going to miss. That's 4 for him. Buzz was in the finals of the World's Invitational once. He had a 244 average. With some of these figures, you know, we take them for granted when we're dealing with this area of bowling activity.
Did you say 244?
244 average. On the head pin. And there's the old equalizer. With 6, 7, 10. I wonder if there's any other sport where a mistake hurts you any more than bowling.
I think so. Isn't every sport, Jack, a matter of inches when it gets right down to it? And there's one there.
The 6, 7, 10 for Glen Allison. He almost slid off the approach. He came back on one knee.
It's an unusual way to clean the approaches, but he sure was happy, Jack, when he saw that pin slide over and take that 7-pin out.
And he had been working on a strike, so he got the spare, and he still hasn't opened, and he has 145 through the 6 with the spare up, and now Buzz Fazio, needing a double, goes to work. And no 5-pin. That's something that he's going to have to do. Some adjustment needs to be made or correction in order to carry that 5-pin.
Very seldom I get to correct you, actually, Jack, but when I pass that note over to you in regards to Fazio's 244 average, that was 244 games he rolled in the World Invitational.
And a 204 average.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you.
No, that was my fault.
Well, listen, Fazio almost blew that 5-pin, didn't he?
Well, remember what we're talking about, the 5-pin?
He's having trouble getting through there.
Yes, on his first ball, the same thing is happening.
He's 29 pins behind, bowling in the 8th frame. Ball's just not coming up for him. He didn't get to the headpin, leaves the 1-2.
Jack, in analyzing something like this, is you have to go into, say, baseball, where one pitcher throws a hard ball fast, or another fellow is very good with a slow ball. This is the difference right here, as soon as Buzz picks this up. Buzz cannot hook the ball as much as Glen Allison. As a result, his angle has to be more straight away, and he's not getting away with that pitch.
Gee, there, Allison, way inside. He's not having any trouble with these lanes. He has a spare up. He's in the 8th frame. And he strikes for the 5th time. It's his 5th strike, and Buzz Fazio has carried 2. Somebody said, oh, just as soon as he put the ball down.
I think
That's all right, ma'am. The bowler couldn't hear you. We heard you, and you were right. Leaves the 4-pin.
Jack, you find that people that are here at Marlboro Lanes, they study the game, and they know immediately if there is a bad pitch. That's a credit to their observing.
There's a spare for Allison. So he failed the double. Failed to strike in that 9th frame. Leaves the door open just a bit for Buzz Fazio here in the 9th frame. What do you think, Buzz? And the 4-pin. Fazio's the sort of bowler, where if he finds the line, why, he can just lay him in there one after the other like Ray Bluth had been doing for 4 weeks here. Watch it.
That's true, Jack, and you hit it right on the head. Buzz belongs to the type of pro bowlers that they throw what they call a direct line ball, rather than what I had mentioned before, where Glen Allison must go out a little bit. He loops the ball, and it's just like hitting a target. Buzz gets there the fastest with the mostest.
He's 32 pins behind as we go into the roll-off. There it is. He'll remember that. He'll remember everything involved in that delivery.
Yeah, he, as we say, week after week, we sit here and we can see, and Buzz actually moved about 8 boards to the left than from what he had been shooting earlier in the game. He's in that position now, about 8 boards left center.
He could go on to a 203 if he hits this one. He was pretty close, even though he left the 4-pin. I think we'll see a few strikes from Buzz on 21 in the next game. Now he has to bring this back for 193. Could be a 235 game for Glen Allison. And he could be in great shape at the end of this first game. 193 for the buzzer. At the same time, he could open in this 10th frame, and we'd have about an even match. Glenn has had 5 strikes. Make it 6. So Fazio will trail when the second game comes around by quite a bit. Could be as much as 42 pins if Glenn can drop 2 more in there. He's very much at home here at Marlboro Lanes.
Jack, one of the innovations of the Brunswick Gold Crown line hits here is that gold crown, when a strike is struck, why it lights up.
He just lit it 3 times in a row, finishes by striking out and ends with 235, and he might have a leg up on that 705 that Ray Bluth owns. At the end of the first game, 235 Glen Allison, 193 for Buzz Fazio. Second game about to start here on Top Star Bowling. In the first game, Glen Allison had 8 strikes and Buzz Fazio 3, but Buzz seemed to find the line toward the conclusion of that first game, so maybe the second one will be different, and he can do something about the 42-pin advantage that Allison owns. Meanwhile, Glenn, you're going to have to up it just a bit. For a 235, you'll just tie Ray Bluth for that high series. And I remind you, Buzz, that I'm not speaking for you at this point, right? Second game coming up here on Top Star Bowling from the Marlboro Lanes. First frame, second game, Buzz Fazio started with a 193. This is the lane where he seemed to finally be at home toward the close of the opener. Let's see if he's there. Nope. 479. Glen Allison had a split in the first game, and he converted it. It's possible to get this one, too, but Buzz doesn't hook the ball very much, as Whitey pointed out, so it may be almost impossible for him. Did he ever throw a big hook during his career, Whitey?
No, he didn't. Jack, different sections of the country, bowlers come from those sections, and that's the way they roll. You take up in Detroit, this is the type bowler they had, like in the
line bowler, you mean?
Yeah, St. Louis area. We've got the big hookers, and just as it's developed, the short and the long, that's what it amounts to, of the break of the ball.
How about that 810? So each will have an open in the first frame. Glen Allison had 8 strikes in the first game, and Buzz Fazio 3.
Jack, a good point of instruction, and one of the most unusual deliveries is to follow to is Glen Allison. He actually opens his hand and lets the ball roll from his fingers.
He carried one on the nose, for which he is grateful.
Now, the difference of why explaining that, because most bowlers will actually lift the ball with their fingers, whereas Glenn just lets that ball roll right out of his hand.
But he has a good follow-through. There's a strike for Fazio. Buzz had only 3 in the first game, and it made the difference as he dropped 42 pins behind.
I think Buzz is the type bowler that is happy to see something like the Brunswick A2 machine because he's always ready to bowl. He's ready to pick it up and start for that foul line.
There's his double. I'm glad he proved me right because I just felt that he was going to start hitting that 21 from the way he had adjusted.
I noticed that you've sort of been getting into my part that I play here with opinions like that. I'll start broadcasting if you keep that up.
He, 10-pin drops. He was hoping for it to come back this way.
Jack, no matter how great they are or what category as a pro or amateur, there's always that reaction to hope that something happens when a pin is rocking, that it falls in your favor.
Allison with a strike. Glenn was selected as an All-American by the Bowler's Journal. Bowler of the Year out in California 1 year. He has 13 300 games. His best series is 793. There's his strike. There's your girlfriend again, Whitey.
Yes, I think you're a little more sharper than I am. You found out her name is Isabel.
Isabel.
Isabel, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Very attractive young lady. She's here every week watching the bowlers.
I haven't had an opportunity because I usually leave here, but I wonder if she actually bowls at Marlboro.
Buzz leaves the 8-pin.
This is usually a picture of happiness and enjoyment when Buzz leaves an 8-pin. Did you see him walk back here?
And he gets the 8-pin. So each started with an open. Buzz came back and he got a double. He could have really used that one. He has chopped into the lead somewhat. It's down from 42 to 34 pins now in favor of Glen Allison. We're in the 5th frame of the second game. A hit there would have cut it down into the 20s. Meanwhile, Allison has one of his own going. He's back doing what he was doing, and he loses 5 pins on the count as well.
Jack, the Brunswick pin finder shows that whole group there, and the bad pin is that 8-pin that's sitting right behind that 4-pin.
Buzz bowled an 800 series on television one time. Got the 8, couldn't get the 7. He opens. Oftentimes you can hit that setup just the way you want, Whitey, and leave something.
Yes, you could have. Sometimes you chop and you leave the 5, actually, taking out that 7.
Now, Glen Allison with a chance to increase his advantage. Has a strike working and a strike ball working. So, Buzz Fazio has 81 through the 5th with an open. Glen Allison 49 through the 3rd, and he has a double up. Through the 3rd frame, Glen Allison, 49, strike in the 4th, strike in the 5th. Buzz Fazio, open in the 5th frame, and he has a total of 92, 82. Fazio on a strike. Fazio in the 7th frame, looking for a double, his second double of the match. There he is. He's going to make a good one out of this yet. Now, Glen Allison has 49 through the third, and he has 3 strikes going. Buzz Fazio has 82 through the fifth, and he has a double going for himself. And now Glen Allison will roll his 7th frame. He has a 3-bagger going. Both started with opens, and Buzz Fazio has an additional open. Glenn looking for 4 in a row. And he's there. He got that late action over there on the 7th pin, and he carried. Glenn's putting on a little show for us, and Fazio's doing the same thing. Rather loose, even though there's a lot of money on the line. I tell you, Allison started with 235. He could come up with quite a series here. He's in the 8th frame now. And he's there. He could go on to a 259 game, which would be 494. If he can strike out here, and then avoid troubles in that last one, he'll have that high series. Ray Bluth currently has it with 705. Buzz Fazio has 2 strikes, and he really needs one. There it is. Buzz Fazio could go on to a 232. As you saw, that Glen Allison took advantage of the break he got in the 7th when that 7-pin finally dropped for him. Buzz Fazio, sweeper. Hey! That looked like a football block on the 10-pin. We just chopped it down. That's the strike in the 9th for Buzz. That's the first time he's put 4 strikes together. He had only 3 strikes in the first game. He's come back here with 6, and he has a double and a 4-bagger. Allison started this string in the 4th frame, so he has 5 in a row. 9th frame. Here's the big one. We're in game number 2. Uh-oh. And he leaves the 6-10. Leaves the door open for Buzz to close it up. Buzz could go on to 232.
It still would mean, Jack, that we'll see Glenn pick this up. Working on a 230 game, which if both of them would strike it out, Buzz wouldn't be able to pick up any pins this game, and still shooting a wonderful game of 232.
Allison is in the roll-off now. Has a spare in the 9th frame. The best he can do is spare. So Buzz Fazio could close the gap. He was 42 pins down at the end of the first game. That miss in the 5th frame may be quite haunting to the buzzer before this one is over. Spare. Now needs a...
Buzz don't want to even give Glenn that last shot. He was getting ready to shoot.
Maybe he's conceding 10 pins, huh?
Buzz says get him while they're hot.
Maybe he doesn't know the rules.
Could be. He's just started in this game.
Glen Allison, 226. So 235, 226. He had 8 strikes in the first game and 7 in this one. Buzz Fazio started with only 3 strikes, but he already has 6. He's got a 4-bagger going. He's in the 10th frame. Could go to 232, and even then he'd only pick up 6 pins and still be 36 down. And he's got to get the strikes. Beautiful. That's 5. It may be too late, however. May be too late.
Well, you can chop away, Jack. That's important because we've got 10 frames in that next game.
Buzz was struggling in that first game. Had a strike in the 1st, a strike in the 6th, and 1 in the 10th. Outside. And he loses quite a bit on that count, as well as failing to get the strike. He carries this for 218. He'll lose another 8 pins and be 50 down. Got them all. So Buzz rolled 193, 218 for a 411 total. And it's 451 for Glen Allison at the end of the second game. Before continuing with Top Star Bowling, a chance to visit with Mr. Hugh Cranford, who's from Charlotte, North Carolina, and associated with the Optimist Club. Hugh, you're associated with the convention committee, right?
That's correct.
How does that fit into bowling? Do you have a nationwide bowling program with the Optimists?
Well, we have bowling programs going on all over the United States and Canada, which are sponsored by Optimist clubs, both for adults and for the youngsters.
Comparable to the Little League baseball
Yes.
teams that are sponsored?
Yes.
Why bowling?
Well, kids will roam the streets in the summer. They'll play baseball, and the fall of the year you can get them in a football game and basketball. But there comes a time when that energy has to be expended elsewhere, and we're trying to get them to show a great deal of interest in bowling.
And I know that part of the background of the Optimists has to do with the community activities and family activities.
That's correct. That's correct. As a matter of fact, Optimist International sponsors, as you know, a number of programs, one of which is the Youth Appreciation Program, which will be coming up in the fall of the year. And we try to focus attention of the press and radio and the news media and the public in general on the 95% of our young people who aren't getting into trouble. The 5% that make the headlines every day get a lot of copy. We're trying to, 1 week out of the year, get a little copy for those that don't get it.
You think we find a lot of the 95% in the various bowling lanes across the country?
I'm sure of it.
And I suppose other service clubs do their bit toward the same end?
Yes, all of us are trying to make this place a little better place in which to live and give these youngsters at least a chance.
Hugh, are you enjoying yourself here at Marlboro?
Oh, I certainly am, and these top bowlers are really great.
And I know that the Optimists will continue to do their bit toward the sport of bowling, and thank you very much for the visit.
Thank you. Nice
Mr.
to
Hugh
be with you.
Cranford.
Nice to be with you.
And now more on Top Star Bowling. I imagine that Glen Allison is thinking a bit about that high series, but primarily thinking about keeping Buzz Fazio away from his top spot here on Top Star Bowling. A few of those, and the buzzer could easily become discouraged. Buzz was a member of the All-American team, selected by the Bowlers Journal more than 4 times. He's right back in there. So they each start with a strike. Let's see, looking back, Glen Allison has had only one open, a split in the first frame of the second game. Buzz Fazio has had 2, a split and a miss. On the head pin, little getaway, gets a 6-10.
Actually, where Buzz lost a lot, Jack, was in the second game, in the 5th frame, when he had that cluster of 5, which was on a spare, and then when he had doubles up in the 10th frame, he came up with another 6-pin. So you actually lose a full mark there with that number of counts on spares and strikes.
And he dropped 50 pins behind, which is the way it stands now. And Allison could further his advantage, for he has a strike working in the first frame.
As we try to point out, Jack, he's so far to the left, he couldn't get over any further. It'd be just like shooting for a 10-pin.
But he's there for a reason. And he shows us the reason. Buzz Fazio shuffling around down there on the bench. Glenn hammering those balls in the pocket.
Well, it points out, Jack, that this game is played, actually, 75% of it is in back of the foul line, not in front.
He's carried a lot of those thin hits because of the way the ball has been driving through for him, but not that time. The wives of each of these men in the audience watching the match. Spare for Allison. Bobby, Fazio, and what is it? Sherry, isn't it?
Sherry, yes.
Fazio with a spare up. Comes along with a strike. Ball may have been a little high, but it didn't matter. And every chance he gets to double, he had better take advantage of. For he trailed by 50 pins at the outset of this third game. And there they go. Safe, he said, safe.
Starting to umpire him out there
Yeah.
now.
That 5-7 was very, very late in dropping. That's a double for him. He already has, in 4 frames in this game, as many strikes as he had in the first game where he got way behind, 42 pins. It'll be some comeback if he can make it. Glen Allison has a spare up. He's in the 4th frame, and he'll take that one. He says safe, too. 3-6-10.
I've been commenting where he stands on the approach, and now here's a 3-6-10. And I know he can't get any further over on this spare than he has been when he shoots for a strike.
Of course, he turn his body in a different direction, walk right at those pins.
That's correct.
That's been missed more than once by all of the good pro bowlers, but not that time. So if there's an opening there presenting itself to Buzz Fazio. Glen Allison started with a double. Buzz has a strike, a spare, and a double going for him now. Allison in the 5th frame. He'll want to get on a strike, because Fazio could do a lot with that string he has going. Well, sir, if somebody in your group walked away from the TV set a while ago and said, well, this one is over, why call him back? It's a 6-7-10. Glenn picked this in the 7th frame of the first game. He really turned that ball over. He's got a crack at it. No, too full. So he opens. And that's only his 2nd open in the entire match, and what an opportunity presents itself to Buzz Fazio.
With a couple strikes here, Jack, that 50
Oh, that
pins could be
disappeared right
really
now.
down.
Mm-hmm. But he's got to get the strikes. Whoa-oh. There. He was pretty much on the nose. He's looking over at Allison. 3 in a row for him, and 4 strikes in this game. He's picked up about 24 of those pins right now. Cut the lead in half. Buzz is in the 6th frame. There's another one for him. He ran that one out. He's got a string of 4. Glen Allison paused just a bit before he got up, contemplating the situation a bit more. He opened in the last frame. He wants to get on one again. Started with a double and 2 spares, and the split. He was 50 pins ahead at the start of this game. Looks good. He found the old line again. Stayed out, came up properly.
This could get really narrow, Jack, if even with Glenn getting that strike in the 6th, presuming he shoots in the 7th, if Buzz continues at the 5th frame, it'll be a difference of only 12 pins.
And it started with a difference of 50. Here's the 7th frame now. Allison looking for a double. They got it. I know I've been using the phrase, he really needs it, because it applies to both in every frame in this game. Now Fazio is the one who requires a strike. And They're taking turns putting the pressure on one another. Thin hit, leaves the bucket. He's angry at himself. Leaves the 2-4-5-8. I'm glad we couldn't hear him. I don't know what he said, but even in silence, it was close to profanity, I believe. He barely got that 4-pin.
I think he said everybody in the pool, Jack.
The 8th frame for Allison becomes so important now. If he continues to strike, why, the buzzer's try would have been in vain, apparently. 8th frame, Buzz Fazio almost left the bucket once more. He leaves the 2-5. He lost the line after reeling off 4 in a row. And 5 strikes in the first 6 frames.
He don't take much time, Jack. He's lining up right to go after this spare, and this isn't too easy of a spare to shoot at.
There are a couple of ways to miss it. Takes the 2, leaves the 5. He was kidding a while ago. Things were lighthearted, even though the competition was keen, but now he's very disappointed in what he has done. Allison was looking for a 3-bagger. All he's got to do now is mark, and he may not even have to do that.
Well, he could play it cozy, Jack, but running down, and it's very difficult sometimes to say that he won't open, but knowing Glenn, he's going on the offensive. He's going to try to get strikes.
He no longer has the chance for the high series, a chance to beat that 705. However, it appears that he'll have another opportunity next week. There's the strike in the 9th frame for Allison. Al Thompson will be the opponent for the winner on this week's Top Star Bowling. What about Al Thompson, Whitey?
Well, Al's one of the young pros. He comes from the land of Cleveland that brought out Harry Smith and Steve Nagy, who also was a great teammate of Buzz's there. In fact, the buzzer helped Harry Smith also when this young fellow started to rise.
There's the 5-pin for Buzz Fazio to shoot at in the 9th frame. And he spares. His potential is cut way down now. He could have 193 in the 9th frame. And 223 if he were to strike out. 221 for Glen Allison if he goes all the way. He's had a game of 235 and 226. Here's Fazio in the roll-off. On the head pin, leaves a 4-7. So the buzzer had a crack at him here, despite trailing by 50 pins at the start of this 3rd game. He gave the folks here at Marlboro, and I hope you people who are watching, a thrill. He spares.
I think, Jack, the difference would go right down to about 3 pitches. When he made that in the 5th, when he left the big cluster, in the 10th on that 2nd pitch, and also in this game in the 7th frame. If he'd have got a strike there, that would have been a difference.
His miss in the 8th inning really didn't mean that much. He needed that strike in the 7th.
That's right.
And he has finished. 210. 193, 218, 210. 621, but not enough. The only thing to be determined now is Glen Allison's final total. That's a double for him. He's going to have a mighty fine series. 682 if he can go all the way. He had 8 strikes in the first game and 7 in the second. Now it gives him 3 in a row and 7 strikes in this one. So he's found the lanes very much to his liking. He knocked off Ray Bluth last week, and he withstood the challenge of Buzz Fazio. He'll haul down another $1,000, still have a chance at the high game and high series. Might as well finish with a strike, Glenn, and he did. A very fine series of 682 for Glen Allison in his second consecutive victory on Top Star Bowling. 621 for our loser, Buzz Fazio. And more things to do and say here on Top Star Bowling. Well, we had another exciting match in Top Star Bowling. Buzz Fazio went into the third and final game 50 pins behind, but I know that very few had given up on him, and Buzz, our faith in you was rewarded. You made a run at him there for a while.
Yeah, everything was looking pretty good till I let loose of that ball in the 7th frame.
When you dropped the ball? Or?
Yes, he got away from me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. The miss in the next frame didn't really matter. It was
No,
that
I had
strike
to,
that you
I had to strike. I had to keep striking.
Mm-hmm. Glenn, he got within 12 pins of you. Did you know that?
I sure did. I had that all figured.
I thought maybe you were over there shining your shoes or something.
I couldn't hardly think about anything but what he was doing at that time. I just hoping I could keep striking or else he would stop, and one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Buzz, when you come on to a show like this and you see that Glenn has been doing well in 692 to defeat Ray Bluth, and he's bowling so differently than you, does it bother you or you just stay with your own game?
I try to stay with my own and try to get the ball into the pocket and strike, that's all.
You don't worry about him.
No, I got enough troubles worrying about my own game. The only trouble I made more mistakes than he did, that's all.
And it is a game of mistakes, right?
Right. And you can't afford to do that.
Glenn, you didn't make very many. You're in that pocket all the time.
Well, I made a couple that turned out pretty good, though. One time I got hit with a towel, but...
What'd you say, Buzz?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say anything about those hits, but what about the ones that he carried?
Well, he carried a couple of nice ones, and I got lucky. And the best part of it was that he capitalized on it. And when I got the break, well, I got lucky enough and I carried one. But see, that's the trouble.
What's the trouble?
Well, he made that extra mistake, and he made it count twice. I only had that one.
Let's bring in the young lady with the prize money. She's a graduate of the John Robert Powers School of Modeling and the Pat Allen Agency in St. Louis. And Miss June Harris. June, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
You enjoy the match? Did you enjoy watching the bowlers?
Yes, very much.
You can turn loose of that money now if you wish.
Thank you. Buzz Fazio, I want to give you this check for $500. I certainly enjoyed watching you bowl.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And Glen Allison, here's your check for $1,000. You certainly bowled well, and I wish you great success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, June Harris. Thank you. Well, Buzz, a long way from Detroit to St. Louis, but $500 pretty good, huh?
You'll pay the gasoline. Thanks ever so
Of course,
much.
you're in your bracket. You can't afford to make too much anyhow.
Thanks a lot.
Buzz Fazio, thank you. Isn't he great? And Glenn, we'll see you back here next week with Al Thompson. I don't know much about him,
Fine.
but I suppose it'll be a handful for you, huh?
He's a nice bowler. I've seen him bowl quite a bit, and he's doing quite well for himself.
You ever bowled against him?
Well, in tournament play I have. But
Never head and head, huh?
No, I haven't.
Next week, then. Glen Allison, folks. In the past here on Top Star Bowling, we've had a ladies' match, and we have another coming up in the future. But prior to that, and next week specifically, Al Thompson from Cleveland will be taking on Glen Allison, who has now won for the second consecutive week. Remind you that Ray Bluth is still on top in this particular series on Top Star Bowling with a 705 series, and he also has the high game. That's 268, right, Whitey? Okay, we speak for Whitey Harris as we say so long from the Marlboro Lanes in the village of Marlboro, just outside the city of St. Louis. Hope you've enjoyed watching it. Hope you'll tune in next week. Glen Allison and Al Thompson. And now Jack Buck says thanks for your time this time. Till next time, so long. Top Star Bowling has been presented by Bowling Equipment by Brunswick, the #1 name in bowling. Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress.